Okay, it doesn't take much for me to give in at all.
I want some nasty. Are we having fun yet?
So I got a lot of requests to watch this video called Greg Popovich Nobody Snake Goat. That is a phenomenal title, if I say so myself. That is a really good title. And thus far, 146,000 views. I was like, oh my God, why don't my Spurs videos get this many views? Secret Base, I never seen their channel before, or maybe I have and I just don't remember. But yeah, so they done a video on Popovich. It's 13 minutes and 49 seconds. So go ahead, put your seatbelts in, get in your nice little cozy seats, and let's watch this Popovich Snake video. But before we do, Clan the Merch Fan, if you guys want to support, okay, head on over to Clan the Merch Fan, get yourself some merch, okay. Speaking of Popovich, get yourself a I want some nasty shirt. Get your go do that for you, boy. All right, so let's go ahead and watch this. Popovich Nobody Snake. I'm gonna speed it up just a little bit. Let's do 1.5, and let me go ahead and turn this off because I'm sure they have their own music. Okay, don't want to take away from them.
We know Greg Popovich as a sage veteran, a legendary coach. He entered 2022 with 5 titles and more wins than any other coach in NBA history. He is regarded for his intelligence and revered by his peers, great coaches in their own right. But he wasn't born a venerable coach. Babies can't do anything. There was a time when Popovich had no thought or ambition of becoming an NBA coach. Once he became one, he was booed at home games and nearly fired.
Yep, that is true. And Spurs fans did not want him to be the coach, actually. And I'm sure it rubbed people the wrong way later on, like when he just straight up like took over the job himself. I'm sure people didn't like that. Dude, I literally just dropped my thing. God, I'm clumsy. I'm sorry, guys.
Even winning a ring didn't really endear him to anybody. Sure, a second.
Wait. When the ring didn't endear him to anybody. Oh, well, yeah, I guess in the like late 90s, people thought that it was like similar to the Mickey Mouse ring of today.
Ring got him closer to the respect we see today, but not as close as you'd think.
Gentle music. Prison.
Popovich began his career, like most of us, as an unknown. He played for the Air Force Academy for 4 years, briefly considered a career in the CIA, and then became an assistant coach at his alma mater. 6 years later, he found his calling. Head coach in an academics-first D3 school that was so small they combined athletic departments with their nearby sister school. Seems like a lowly post, but for Popovich, it wasn't. He didn't have NBA aspirations. He was just trying to have a nice life. At Pomona, Popovich got to be a family man, immersed in the small campus community. May we all find such a fulfilling pursuit. His first-year record wasn't great, but 6 years after that...
2-22? Pop was trash, bro.
Popovich led the Sagehens to a conference title and an NCAA tournament berth. You might think, like, yeah, of course Popovich turned the team around, he's a legendary NBA coach, he'd dominate D3. But at this stage of his career, it wasn't really genius that turned Pomona around. It was the tried-and-true tactic of recruiting, something Pomona hadn't done before. In fact, Popovich didn't really have his own coaching style nailed down at this point. He was trying things out, most often defaulting to an impersonation of Bobby Knight. And sure, there are flashes of Knight-like demonstrative anger in the Popovich we know and love today, but those seem pretty genuine to him, not an affected impersonation. In 1987, Pop took a sabbatical from Pomona to be a volunteer assistant coach with Larry Brown at the University of Kansas. And Brown really likes Popovich. While generally unpaid internships and the like are bullshit, this one wasn't so bad. Popovich started to find himself as a coach, and he made friends in high places. But when Larry Brown was promoted to the NBA, Popovich wasn't so sure he wanted to ask Brown to take him along. First, he didn't want to leave his sweet setup at Pomona. Second, he was bashful. He was a D3.
He thought Larry Brown was going to laugh in his face. Dude, Popovich is so freaking humble. I don't care what anyone says. So many people bash Popovich nowadays. This man is so humble. He has so much humility. He is so empathetic. He is so understanding. He is absolutely incredible. He's an incredible person, at least from the outside looking in, okay? He's so introspective. Yeah, I see why certain groups of people don't like him.
Coach, how's he going to ask for a job in the NBA? In the end, he asked and received an assistant coach position with Brown and the Spurs. There still wasn't much public perception of Popovich at this point. He was simply lumped in with all of Brown's assistants as new to the NBA. Out of the public eye, however, Popovich was doing something right. He certainly impressed the Spurs management. When they fired Larry Brown, they kept Popovich on, and the following season offered him more money to stay. But Don Nelson offered him an assistant job, based just off seeing him on the opposing bench a handful of times. And that's where Pop went. 2 years later, the Spurs came calling again, with an offer to be GM. From assistant coach to GM, hard to see how in the world he was qualified for that, But perhaps those who were working with Popovich up close caught glimpses of what he would be. And even those who were barely aware of Popovich weren't upset by his jump to GM. The Spurs were in upheaval after a disappointing postseason, and besides, Nelson and Brown vouched for Popovich. That's gotta be worth something.
Woo.
For the next 2 seasons, people liked Pop's management when the Spurs won and doubted him when they lost. Reasonable enough. At the start of the 97 season, the Spurs were considered title contenders. But then David Robinson got hurt and missed the first 18 games, of which the Spurs won only 3.
Oh, and by the way, I did want to address this. Is this the same year? I think it's the same year. You said 97. Yeah. So a lot of people talk about whether or not the Spurs in the 90s tanked or not. And I always say this. I think that the word tank can be used interchangeably, like all the time. And I think that it doesn't really matter. The outcome is the same. You lose a bunch of games and you get a good player. So whether or not you believe the Spurs are doing it intentionally now or not, it really doesn't matter. Who cares? Just as long as you get that same result of getting a top tier player. And I know a lot of people try to use this whole, well, it's a mindset thing. I don't know. I think the players are going to play hard regardless. They want to show their worth. I think Popovich is going to coach. He's not going to just halfway coach. And I think even in the 90s, no one halfway coached, okay? It's just circumstance. Team wasn't good enough, had an injury, you lose a bunch of games. Whether you want to or not, whether you set yourself up for that or not, it doesn't really matter. I don't care about the mindset. I just want us to get the talent. And I trust the Spurs franchise with that because they're a good franchise. Okay, I went off the road, like just a little bit. I went off the rail.
Not great, but, injuries happen, can't really blame anybody. Oh, Popovich fired Coach Bob Hill in a rather unceremonious way, even though Hill had led the Spurs to 121 wins over 2 seasons.
And by the way, we talked about this earlier, so yeah, made himself the coach.
Huh. Well, don't worry, Popovich had, in his opinion, an excellent replacement lined up. His confidence certainly had grown since the days he was afraid to call Larry Brown and ask for an assistant job. Up until this power grab, people had given Popovich the benefit of the doubt. But at this point, he was nothing more than a snake in the grass. There was anger that might have gotten exaggerated.
Oh my goodness. What Popovich did to Hill is what's systematically wrong with the country. What? Oh my God. He who has the power befriends someone else to help make him look good when the person can no longer make him look good. And jeez, Broker no longer wants him as his friend. Oh my God. Sound like some snowflakes to me.
But that's how worked up everyone was. Who the hell did Greg Popovich think he was?
If skilled, experienced coaches such as Pat Riley and Don Nelson can't do it, what makes Pop think he can? Oh my goodness! Oh my God! Who wrote this, bro? We gotta call them out. Who wrote this? How old are you now? They're probably like 90 years old. Dude, we gotta call them out on this.
Also, he fired Hill and instituted himself on the very same day Robinson was set to return. Pretty convenient. Spurs fans were disgusted with Popovich, which sounds wrong, like maybe I haven't done my research, so let me give you some proof. At Pop's first home game, fans waved pro-Bob Hill signs and anti-Greg Popovich signs. During the starting lineups, the announcer mumbled Popovich's name. Fans still heard it, and you could tell because they were booing.
Wow. Hey, by the way, we did talk about this before, that Popovich got booed when he was first coach. We did talk about this.
When the Spurs had a terrible season, fans felt vindicated in their hostility. To be fair, Robinson only came back for 6 games before getting injured again, but also, nobody felt like being fair to Greg Popovich.
Nope.
In a local media poll, 92% of fans wanted Popovich gone.
Whoa! 92? 92? I don't know if you guys can see this. It says 305 people said don't fire Pop. 3,635 people said do fire Pop. God, dude. You know what? Oh my God. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Wow. That is incredible. That is incredible. You know what? I thought that this was kind of a newer thing, like, oh, it's younger fans or whatnot, like, can have bad opinions. Like, anyone can have bad opinions. Like, sure, at that time, it probably rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Like, wow, you fire the coach and make yourself the coach, blah, 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 right? But it's still a bad opinion. You were wrong. It was a bad opinion. So, yeah, it doesn't matter what decade you're from. People can have really bad opinions. That's why I always say, like, when people say people really change, these kids are different than the kids of the age. It's like, not really. It's just, just circumstances that, make it look a little different, but you're still the same people. I don't know.
But he is the GM. What's he going to do? Fire himself? In response to the poll, Popovich said, "It's never been my goal to be the king of prom." And then he signed a multi-year deal. See, Popovich was working on something and found no need to explain that to his detractors. He trusted his process, but wasn't so defensive that he had to tell people to trust the process. From the moment he took over as coach, he was reinventing the Spurs. It was back to basics. He slashed their playbook, refocused the team on defense, and emphasized effort over wins and losses, with the hope that that would, of course, lead to wins. While his public-facing persona was that of a hubristic, self-appointed dictator who couldn't win games, with his...
And it's so funny because they've gone back to that. Have you guys noticed that? Not a lot of people on this channel, because we're really smart and we're awesome and we're like geniuses, right? But like a lot of like Spurs Twitter and stuff, a lot of these people go back to this. They've gone back to this 90s mindset that he's a dictator and he's this, even after all the evidence that that's not necessarily true. Even people that like aren't in the Spurs community at all that talk about Popovich, they talk about the Spurs as if it's some type of dictatorship that you can't do anything. Like that one girl, remember that one woman that we went over where she was talking about something like, I don't remember her name. I'm not being a jerk. I genuinely don't remember. But she was saying something like the Spurs can't talk on the team bus. Like there's no talking on the team. That's insane. That's just something someone made up. Like, yeah.
Players, he was a totally different guy, as in 2020 former Spurs center Will Perdue described.
It was also that humility and humbleness. Hey guys, I'm learning just like you. Yes. He's
And
always been
besides,
like
that whole couldn't win games part was a blessing in disguise, because the Spurs won the 97 draft lottery, which was a real windfall. The 97 draft had an obvious first pick.
Woo! We know what happened.
Expectations
after that.
rose, and were not met. Look out, Popovich. This is going to get ugly. To his players, his back-to-basics approach was a foundation to build on. To everyone else, it was all Popovich could come up with because he sucked. He was called, at best, an assistant with assistant's ideas. We're blurring the author's photo here, not because we don't have the rights, but to spare him the humiliation.
No, show the man. Who put this? Basic defenses and serve. Hold on. What did he say?
Blurring the author's photo here, not because we come up with because he sucked. He was called, expectations rose, and were not met. Look out, Popovich. This is going to get ugly. To his players, his back-to-basics approach was a foundation to build on. To everyone else, it was all Popovich could come up with because he sucked. He was called, at best, an assistant with assistant's ideas. We're blurring the author's photo here, not because we don't have the rights, but to spare him the humiliation. Coincidentally, we don't have the rights. When the Spurs sputtered to a 6-8 start in the lockout-shortened 99 season, Popovich again heard boos with a San Antonian accent. Rumors were swirling. Popovich was on the chopping block. Yeah, he's GM, but the fans' fervor against him was so strong, even being his own boss couldn't save him. There was a replacement lined up, former Spur fan favorite and Spurs broadcaster Doc Rivers. The players heard the rumor.
Gosh, I can't find it. I was trying to find the guy. I wanted to put him on the screen. I can't find him though. If anybody like has his photo and who he is, please let me know. I'll humiliate him. I don't care.
Most loudly was the one about how if they fell to 6-9, Pop was a goner. But that whole fans hate me, players like me thing Popovich had going paid off. As the bus drove the Spurs to what could be Popovich's final game, Avery Johnson made sure everyone knew they were playing for Pop's life. He gave Mario Ellie an individual pep talk, admitting they both needed to step up. David Robinson shed his quiet dignity and delivered an impassioned pregame speech. And the gang saved their coach. But
wow, they really loved Pop. I didn't know about this. That's pretty cool.
They didn't convince anyone to like him. The Spurs won their next 9 games in a row, but Popovich didn't get any credit, even though he should have. Popovich changed up the offense, putting more trust in his point guard, and convincing his veteran all-star to take a step back and let the young hotshot become their first offensive option.
It is so strange. Popovich's career is so strange. So he didn't get any credit around this time. And then as seasons went on, Pop got almost all the credit. And then after Tim Duncan left, Tim Duncan got most of the credit. And you can even see like in these finals appearances that Pop didn't even care about the credit. I know you guys remember this, okay? 2014, where we won the championship. Pop just sat on the bench the whole time, and he allowed his team to celebrate. So yeah, he didn't care about getting the credit at all. Very strange. Very strange.
These were effective changes. The Spurs finished the regular season with the best record in the West, lost just 1 game on their way to the finals, and then beat the Knicks in 5 games to take the title. Greg Popovich turned a 6-8 start into a championship. He silenced his critics. I misspoke. He barely slowed down his critics. A championship wasn't enough to sway perception into the positive. I mean, San Antonio fans stopped booing him and started cheering for the team, but that's as good as it got. Basketball fans found Popovich's system of slow, methodical, Duncan-on-the-block offense boring. The media still doubted his intelligence.
In the late 90s, they called us boring. I thought that wasn't until like the mid 2000s that we were considered. Guys, this is a lot of Spurs lore that I did not know about.
And fellow coaches didn't consider him a real champion. The following season didn't give Popovich a chance to prove it.
Was that Phil Jackson? Yeah, Coach Phil. It was just Phil Jackson. I don't think anyone else said it. I think it was just him. He's trash. He's a trash person. I'll say that. I think Phil Jackson is a terrible human being. And I don't know. I felt that way ever since his departure. Like his last game against the Dallas Mavericks, where he basically just had his team just completely try to injure the Mavericks team. I thought that was trash. I think he's a trash person. I don't know. I could be wrong, but he seems like a trash person.
Him a real champion. The following season didn't give Popovich a chance to prove anyone wrong. Duncan got injured and missed the playoffs. The Spurs were out in the first round. In 2001, Popovich led San Antonio to the best record in the league. But in the Western Conference Finals, they were soundly crushed by the Lakers. Phil Jackson made fun of Popovich and his staff, nicknaming them the Simulator Crew, because none of them
He is such a hater.
had ever played in the NBA. You know what? I'd like to take a moment to mention that in 2017, Pop passed Phil Jackson on the all-time win list. Just feels like the right time to bring that up. Okay, back to 2001. Pop took the brunt of the blame for the Spurs' playoff collapse, and there were again calls for him to be fired. But remember, he was also building the team, and he had a process for that as well. Popovich, the GM, could help out Popovich, the coach. Tim Duncan had been a free agent before the 2001 season. Orlando and recurrent Popovich foil Doc Rivers nearly lured Duncan away. But he stayed in San Antonio because of his relationship with Popovich.
But yeah, Popovich is trash, right?
In preparation for David Robinson's approaching retirement, Popovich looked to recruit from Europe more aggressively than other teams. He drafted French point guard Tony Parker 28th overall in 2001. Many doubted Parker. He was small and had played for a French team with a name that made it seem like they played a game other than basketball. Sounds fun, just different. But Pop knew what he was doing. He had also drafted Manu Ginobili back in '99, but Ginobili didn't join the Spurs until the '03 season. It's in Popovich's development of Ginobili that we see something that sets him apart as a coach. Ginobili wanted to create. He wasn't satisfied or that useful waiting in the corner for Duncan to pass him the ball. Instead of forcing Manu to change and fit his offense, Popovich changed the offense. There aren't a lot of coaches who would change their tried
He
and
does it all the time, and that was the thing with Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson would not change his offense, which is perfectly fine. I mean, he won a lot of championships, but at the same time, you have to have very specific players every single time. That's why Popovich is so special, because no matter who he gets, he can make them better, and he just adjusts the team. That's why I never agree with people when they say the system doesn't work anymore. Obviously, it's like, no, Popovich just plays to who he has. If he had LaMarcus Aldridge, then obviously you have to play to your best player's strengths. The same thing with DeMar DeRozan, who he didn't even know how good of a facilitator he truly was, but Pop put that out of him. He was like, no, you are a really good facilitator. That's what you're going to have to do here. And, you know, we're going to predicate it off your mid-range game. He does it with every single player. Same thing with Kawhi. He played off of Kawhi's strength. So I don't know where people come from with this whole change the system thing. That's where I always get confused. Like, what are you talking about?
true system to best utilize a sub. With some new faces buttressing the Twin Towers, the Spurs won another title in 2003. And finally, the perception of Popovich started to tilt toward how we see him today. Local media penned retrospectives on his life that didn't mention the unpleasantness of his rise to head coach, or even his less than glamorous start at Pomona. They didn't call him boring, they called him no-nonsense. But it wasn't like he was considered an all-time great just yet. Phil Jackson certainly didn't think Pop belonged in the elite coaches club.
God, he's such a hater, dude. Phil Jackson is a trash person. The fact that every coach basically loves or adores or admires Popovich in some way, and he's the one that's always like nagging about it, I don't know. Maybe they're just polar opposites, bro. I don't know. I don't know. He's a villain.
Brought up his 99 needs an asterisk theory. If 2 championships didn't put Pop there, what would? 3 championships.
Yeah.
Why? What was so different about the 2005 title? Well, Popovich won with a new iteration of the Spurs. The Twin Towers were the backbone of the 99 and 03 wins, though admittedly Dave Robinson was less potent in 03, whereas the 2005 title was captured by the Big Three. Popovich proved he could adapt and win it all with multiple rosters. In short, he made it very difficult to doubt his ability.
Chills.
And then he added some more titles, the most wins of any coach. And we find ourselves living in a world where Greg Popovich is a legendary genius coach, the best of the best, so great we can't even fathom there was a time when he didn't see himself in the NBA. Or a time when he nearly lost his job. Or a time when he was called an assistant with assistant's ideas. Good thing that one's in print.
Dude, that gave me chills. That was so dope. That was so awesome. It was quite a few things there I didn't actually know. But man, that was actually really cool. Yeah, I didn't realize, I'll be honest with this though. While you guys know, I've been very open and not liking Phil Jackson, like for many years now. But I will say this, I had no idea that Phil Jackson went at Popovich this many times. I thought it was like a couple, but I think she named like 3 or 4, which is insane, okay? He has like this weird, unhealthy obsession with Greg Popovich, or at least he used to. But yeah, dude, I got chills watching this. This was really great. Let me see. I was on the bench next to Pop. Pomona. When we were 222 as his assistant, I just marveled at how his mind worked. For a guy with so much drive, he was so supportive with the kids who, in some cases, hadn't made their high school teams. We spent long hours talking basketball and life. I was just 2 years removed from a tour at Vietnam and had some problems. But Pop could and would lift my spirits. Then came the day I was transferred by the company I worked for and we had to split. Maybe someday we will meet again. Living in Austin, Texas, it gives me a smile knowing he is 90 miles away and that we both have white beards. He is truly a good man and a fine coach. Dude, wow. This is wow. Robert Hohen, wait. Yeah, I think it's legit. Bobby's girl. Yeah, his playlist is Bobby's girl. Yeah, I think it's legit. I think this is a real person. Yeah, probably. Yeah, dude, that was really good. Guys, let me know what you think. I love Pop, and I've been a very huge advocate for Popovich continually like being the Spurs. Oops, didn't mean to do that. For Popovich continually being our coach until he's ready to go. I just don't buy into the BS, man. When people make things political when Pop, like there's political reasons you don't like them, I'm sorry. I'll be real with you, just 120%. Pop is someone who's very introspective. Pop is someone who understands people, understands players, understands circumstances. He's a very smart person. And yeah, I mean, if you disagree with him something politically, at least you can sit back and understand where he's coming from and that there is some type of forethought or true thinking going on with Pop. And unfortunately, a lot of people that criticize Pop, they're dumb. They don't really have a true criticism that makes any sense or a true criticism that weighs anything. They'll just say silly, stupid things like, oh, he's woke Pop. And it's like, okay, yeah, just ignore every single thing that he talks about. But his understanding of people is the reason why he is a great coach. And he's going to go down in history as the greatest coach of all time because he can work with anyone, because he understands anyone. But yeah, that's besides the point. I'll get with you guys later, man. If you want to support the channel, link in the description, clanthemerchfan.com. Until next time, deuces.